Okay, so today I'm going to do a shotgun, build overview description with a little bit of a gameplay showcase. I finally created a metagame one-shot, headshot shotgun build. I did do one beforehand with the Alpha Bridge set. Well, this one features 5-piece Sentry. This is pretty much right on the nose of what a standard shot is. Now, it is a little bit squishier. A lot of people may use a different setup, the Savage Gloves over the Reckless Chest piece. I can get one-shotted by things like sticky bombs, things like enemy shotgunners. It does happen, but this is what I've found to be a really fun, one-shot style mechanic. You're running up on people with a headshot. I can actually drop someone with over 480,000 toughness, which up until now I really didn't think was possible. I thought everybody would be safe with around 450,000 toughness, but someone running this build can just absolutely shred through enemy players if you have the skill to land the headshots. Aim assist does help on console quite a bit, so quick scoping and rescoping is a viable strategy right now. A lot of people are using it. So I'm going to get right into it, talk about all the Sentry pieces, then the Reckless Chest piece, both my guns, and then my talents and skills, and show my character sheet as well. So starting off, I have 5-piece Sentry to unlock the rest of the headshot damage that's taken off of the 2-piece. So that's something that a lot of people have talked about as being very strong. It still functions, and having 5-piece Sentry, you're getting the marking, but you're also getting the headshot damage, and it is quite strong. It's actually a really solid mechanic. So starting with my backpack, I do have skill power in the major attributes. Now, you can easily swap this out for something like critical hit damage because I already have high enough skill power to take advantage of pulse and heal in a positive way. 26,000 is plenty to deal with pulse, to give me a lot of critical hit damage and a lot of critical hit chance, and possibly, help me to hit that cap of 60% crit chance. And 26,000 is more than enough for my heal to do a large amount of burst. So skill power, while I would recommend having it on both the mask and the backpack, is not essential, but it will be beneficial. So I have a horrible firearms roll on this backpack. It's a 240. Again, I do this a lot of the time and showcase builds that are not fully min-maxed. This is a cobbled together build that is extremely competitive while still not reaching max potential. So someone that has all 268 pieces, or takes the time to farm them up or equip them and things like that, is going to have a stronger build than I do, but this is actually extremely competitive. So I'm just showing that the shotgun meta is extremely strong. No matter what you're doing with the shotgun build, as long as you have the right setup in terms of using Sentry or Alpha Bridge and the right talents on your guns, you're going to be extremely strong no matter what. You don't really have to have this perfect set of gear. So not a great firearms roll at 600, could be a lot better, could be about 150 better if I were to have a 268 variety, but it gets the job done. The skill attributes are not good for me at all. Anything to do with pulse or heal would be much better, and the minor attribute is kind of irrelevant. Just taking a look really quickly at all the bonuses. The 10% headshot damage is nice. Damage to elites is irrelevant. Sentry's Call, headshots using semi-automatic weapons, that counts as shotguns, is going to mark the target 15%. They multiply on top of themselves, so 3 stacked targets actually take 52% increased damage, not 45, which is important to note. And you will be stacking, fairly easily if you use the quick scoping mechanic on console with the 4-piece bonus. And then the 5-piece bonus is what helps to make this build so strong. That extra 20% headshot damage is really critical. Now, as you can see in the mod slots, I have stamina with critical hit chance. I am, prioritizing critical hit chance since my skill power is already so high. And, the crit chance is going to allow me to meet that cap. And then, 5 of the 8 pellets, pretty much every shot at least, will be critting if I am at crit cap and I do hit a headshot. So that's the backpack. Going down to the gloves, these actually caused me quite a bit of pain earlier today. 42% critical hit damage, great roll. 710 shotgun damage, that costed me about 13 million credits to get, give or take. I re-rolled these so many times trying to get that. This is actually something important to note about gloves. The shotgun damage that you can get is per pellet, not just overall. So that's actually 8 times 710 added to my base weapon damage, which is really strong. And you actually definitely want shotgun damage on your gloves. Up till now, I haven't had that, and that was a chunk of damage that was making the build less effective, but I have that now and it works. Decent firearms roll and 6.5% critical hit chance. Sticky bomb damage doesn't matter for me, but it could be something like first aid self-heal, which would be much more valuable and give me more survivability, considering my toughness is extremely low. So keep an eye out for that. Moving on to my holster, a nice 268 holster, 706 firearms, 725 stamina, and a perfect rolled 757 electronics with armor as a major attribute and pulse critical hit damage. These are about as good a pads or a holster as I could ask for. It's pretty much perfect, has everything that I want. I would always suggest rolling armor on your holster to achieve the armor cap. If you're not at 75% or extremely close to that, you're going to have a really bad time in the DZ because you're going to get shot, one shot by pretty much everything. So the point is that the holster and the chest piece are two extremely important pieces of gear to roll armor onto. There is no major attribute on the holster that is better than armor, so always roll that on your holster. Moving on now to my pads. I have these Sentry's called knee pads. They are 268, 21% critical hit damage. I've achieved the armor cap with a couple of mods and great rolls on my other gear pieces, so I don't actually need to roll armor on my pads. And the critical hit damage is going to boost the DPS output of the build and the one-shot potential a lot higher because it's a large chunk. So having, crit damage on your pads is something I would suggest. One of the hidden gems of this piece is that 29% shock resistance helps in PvP, considering a lot of people are using shock turrets, and being immobilized is actually very deadly. As you can see with this build, now that I'm demonstrating from my end, one-shotting players, if they're shocked, it's much easier to land that headshot. So, being shocked is really dangerous, and having a little bit of shock resistance on one piece of gear at least is going to help you quite a bit. First aid ally heal, would prefer something to do with pulse especially, but, that will work. And that's pretty much the pads. So moving on to my Sentry's Call mask, I have skill power on it. It's a 240 piece, could be much better, but it has a decent stamina roll, and it fulfills the purpose of the build. You could definitely switch this out, the skill power, for critical hit chance. That would be a very good thing to do as well to help you meet that cap and overall increase the amount of damage that you can output. But I do like having 26,000 skill power. I think it's well-rounded. So trading either the mask or the backpack for either critical hit damage or critical hit chance is totally viable. Anyone is welcome to do that. But, I wouldn't trade both. I would keep at least one of those two items on skill power to make sure that you have enough to take advantage of your skills in a positive way. The minor attribute and skill attributes are not really relevant on this mask type. So moving on from there, we're going to talk about the Reckless chest piece. Now, I am extremely squishy. I do get killed by sticky bombs. I do get killed by shotgunners, but I really like the stick and move style of gameplay with just massive headshot damage, that this build provides. So whether or not I do die often is kind of irrelevant to the build. If you want to prioritize something else, maybe not have Reckless, maybe switch over to Vigorous, that's totally fine. I could switch from Reckless to Vigorous if I rerolled this for armor, the protection from elites, and have just as viable a build. Maybe not, the constant increased damage output, but using, booster shot with Vigorous and 23,000 skill power, as you can see here, probably more once I've switched the mods, would be just as viable. So that's something I am looking into actively right now, and it is a definite thing that could improve the build. As long as you have enough firearms to activate all of your shotgun talents, it should be good to do that, and Vigorous might be a much better, thing in general to run. So keep that in mind, but I am using Reckless. I have a really great Reckless chest piece here that allows me to have a lot of fun with this build. So whether or not you want to use it is up to you, but I will discuss Reckless right now, in this build description. Exotic damage resilience, having some is super nice. I am not going to be able to run 2-piece final measure because I have the 5-piece Sentry. So having at least 1 or 2 pieces with exotic damage resilience is almost critical. It will allow you to survive a lot better against sticky bombs. Maybe with an overshield they won't be able to drop you, but they are super dangerous. And while I personally don't encounter them all the time, I do know that on PS4, sticky bombs are still, reigning supreme. So exotic damage resilience is a priority on certain consoles and platforms, but it's not actually critical on Xbox One right now. It seems like, when you do encounter a sticky bomber, you can actually still almost one-shot them despite the fact that they may be a tank-tician. This shotgun build is extremely strong in that regard. So you just have to be hyper aware of your positioning and not get killed by sticky bombs. Ammo capacity, super nice to have on the gear, but not critical. Turret health, not relevant at all. And then in the mod slots, I have 2 stamina mods with skill power. This is allowing me to achieve a much higher skill power, almost 3,000 skill power just from those 2 mods themselves. They could be a little bit higher. They could both be over 1,500 if I had great rolls, but I don't. And you could easily switch these out. These could be something like firearms with crit chance if you're really going for a glass cannon build. They could be stamina with crit chance if you're going for, just increased damage output overall while still gaining some toughness. And there's a lot of different possibilities, but this is what I've chosen, I think, pound for pound, that they're very effective. Moving on, I'm going to talk about my gun. This is one of the main portions of a shotgun build. You have to have a solid shotgun, preferably of the M870 variety. Now, something like the SASG can work. Now, I have an SASG here with Deadly, Vicious, and Determined. Not the best. You really do want responsive on your shotguns. It's something super solid, and every time you're shooting a target from optimal range, it's going to be active. So it's basically just a free, 14%, give or take, damage bonus. It's going to increase drastically the amount of headshot damage you can output when you land the shots. So I would look for responsive in particular, maybe competent as well on any shotgun that you're going to use. But also brutal and deadly are very nice. So I do have deadly and vicious. That's a great pairing. Not the best SASG in the world, but it would work with the build. But the main showcase that I'm going to be using is this military M870. This has deadly, capable, and brutal. Now, deadly is essentially a dead talent in this build. I don't need capable. Sorry, capable. I said deadly, I meant capable. Capable is a dead talent. It doesn't do anything for me. I would much prefer responsive. I'm in the process of re-rolling this. If I do get responsive, the build will immediately get a giant boost to its overall power. But right now, deadly and brutal is still a super potent combination, and it's going to allow me to one-shot players with well over 400,000 toughness, especially when I pulse. So there's a lot of room for improvement with this build, and there's a reason why shotguns are taking over the Dark Zone. They are that strong. I don't know, I'm mixed whether or not they need a nerf, but they are that strong. They are extremely hyper effective right now, and you can kill pretty much anyone with the right accuracy. So deadly and brutal, very synergistic combo. If you have responsive as well, or if brutal isn't in the third slot and you have competent down there, it will be extremely helpful as well. So percent weapon damage increases are extremely potent with a shotgun. Another thing that you want to look out for is this is a 204 variety M870, and as you can see, the base damage is 116,000. Now, base damage is subjective, okay? And what this means to me is that my firearms and the fact that I have reckless on and things like that are increasing my base damage. Someone else who equips this gun is not going to have the same base damage as me. But it's important to note that this is a 204 military M870, which is absolutely shredding in the Dark Zone. If this was a 229 variety with deadly, responsive, and brutal, this build would be kicked up to a whole new level and just absolutely be unstoppable. So I understand why it's the meta build. I'm not a big fan of doing hyper meta coverage, which I've kind of tried to stay away from until now, but I have just an overwhelming number of requests from people to do an in-depth shotgun guide because it is what is strongest right now. I do like Deadeye a lot. I think Deadeye's super strong and a great counter to the shotgun builds, but you know, shotguns are taking over, so I am covering them. My secondary is this SOCOM M1A just to bridge that distance gap. If someone does get a lot of distance on me, I can switch over to this with deadly, accurate, and prepared, and hopefully, you know, dish plenty of damage and remain competitive. So I'm not just viable from up close. In fact, I do have an alternative. Now, moving on to my skills and my talents, I have Pulse with Tactical Scanner. That's 100% what you want to be running, unless there is someone in your group that has a stronger one, in which case you should switch over to maybe Shock Turret. I personally don't like to run that, so I go with something like Flashbang Sticky, anything like that with CC, maybe even, you know, Seeker Mine. Some people find that to be effective. You know, so if you are alone or in a group where you have the highest skill power, definitely Pulse with Tactical Scanner. That's imperative. But if you're not and you have someone with a high skill build, then they can run the Pulse. Then for survivability, you know, heal with Overdose. If you do run a vigorous chest piece, maybe heal with Booster Shot. But for my purposes, it's going to be heal with Overdose to increase my survivability, give myself an overheal, and protect me from a lot more damage than, you know, normally I would be able to if I didn't have this, you know, self-preserving heal, you know, available to use in PvP. So moving on from there, I'm going to talk about my talents. I have Triage. I like that quite a bit, especially when I'm in a squad, which is pretty much all the time, personally. I do understand that a lot of people play solo, and I will try to do more coverage of that. For anyone that's interested, the Facebook community is a great place to group. We've also expanded to a messaging application now, so the link is down in the description for anyone that wants to group up and have an easier time completing content. But for me, I'm always in a group, so I have Triage 15% whenever it's healed. I do believe that Triage is broken right now and needs to be balanced. Maybe not nerfed, but just changed in some way, because right now it's totally throwing off the balance of PvP. You can become basically an unkillable ball of healing that, you know, people have to get really lucky in order to kill with good coordination. So it's something that needs to be reworked in its current setting, but, you know, it is very strong, so I do run it almost all the time. After that, I run Critical Save. When you're in that last health segment, getting that damage resistance, it's going to be very, very helpful, especially fighting other players, because then you can actually take the time to scope in, you know, be less mobile. You know, you will soak up a little bit more damage and then get those headshots, hopefully, if your aim is on point. Then after that, I run Strike Back. Reducing my active skill cooldowns is really nice, especially when I get to low health. And with Reckless and the toughness that I have, personally, I reach low health quite often. So getting that 20% proccing, and then getting my heal back or my pulse is going to be really helpful, and I view it as a really valuable talent to have. Then I run One is None. I've said it in quite a few videos. 1 is none pairs very well with shotguns. Landing a headshot is almost a guaranteed, way to not consume the bullet because it procs per pellet, not per shot. And as a result, if you can land headshots consistently, it's going to cut down on how much ammo you consume, keep you out there for longer periods of time. And also, if using a gun like the M870 with a very small, magazine size, only 5 rounds are capable of being in the gun at any one time without using a different magazine to augment that up to like 9 or so. It's very valuable when you're not consuming one of those shells because those shells individually are where all of your damage comes from. So if you have 1 left and you land a headshot and then you get to fire that 1 again, it's an extremely long reload time, so it's a really valuable thing to have happen, and 2 shots can easily kill a player. So it's actually made even more valuable by that fact. The 50% chance per pellet is really strong, so that's why I suggest running it. So that's going to be about it. I'm going to flip it over to some gameplay, talk over it, and hopefully you can see what the build can do and maybe even some ways to counter it. Okay, so here we go. About to go rogue, and we are in the lower DZ areas. There's been a lot of confusion of people saying, oh, you dropped down a bracket, and actually they were quite upset at me because they thought I had dropped down a bracket from the 231 plus gear score, area down to the 201 plus. That's not the case. I couldn't even do that if I tried to, which I would never try to. So, rest easy in that regard. I'm not down in the 201 bracket. This is all 231 plus. And some people say, well, you shouldn't be down in the lower DZs. My response to that is player density. There just isn't the player density to find competitive, fast-paced PvP in the higher DZs. And when there is, I will always make the effort to showcase it there. It's a very different area with a lot of different nuances to the PvP environment. So I will always try to show it there, but when I can't, I have to showcase it down here. As you can see, though, the build is super strong, one-shotting pretty much everything when you accurately land a headshot. My aim is not on point. I shoot like a potato, but even body shots are quite strong as well. When you do stack a target, it becomes a death sentence. It's a non-verbal way of marking the enemy, and your squad can just, prioritize that target and know that they're going to take increased damage from all sources, and overall it's just very strong. We are, I guess, camping a checkpoint, but my response to that as well is that these players are not weak. AZZO, the guy here that we're fighting repeatedly, has a stronger shotgun build than I have. He is an extremely, talented player. He kills me multiple times, not actually in this footage here, but he does kill me multiple times. He's a strong player. So, and I believe that this was just a really fun PvP encounter from all sides. This was not something where we repeatedly killed them and griefed them. We died as well quite often. So I felt like this was just some really fun PvP, not just from our side, but from their side as well. So that's why I'm kind of totally okay with this going on right now. He has a very strong build, as I said. Maybe you'll get to see it. I'm not sure if it's in this clip or not. It's a great build. The stick and move style of gameplay is fun, and I do like it. It's not something I'm going to use all the time. I do try to stay away from meta builds. One of the things that I feel like my channel should and will continue to provide is alternative meta coverage, something like Tenacious Mask, solo builds, stuff like that. But this, with the overwhelming amount of requests that I got to cover the metagame, I felt like I shouldn't ignore that at all. And, I decided to do this. Now, headshots are where the real beauty of this build comes in. If you're landing body shots, especially from range, as you can see here, they're not going to do a whole lot. So you have to be up close and personal. You have to land the headshots, especially with Brutal and with the 5-piece Sentry to get the 30% headshot damage. That's where all your damage is going to come from. And, when you're doing that, it's going to be extremely strong. You can drop people right through a signature skill if you've, snapshotted bonuses correctly with Smart Cover and Pulse. It's just really potent, it's really fun, and it's a different style of gameplay than we're used to. I mean, SMGs took over the metagame for so long that everybody forgot that there are alternative weapon types, shotgun being one of them. And while I do, it does hurt to get one-shotted, especially on the receiving end, seeing something that was so far in the shadows come right out to the spotlight, in such a big way is a nice feeling. And, I'm hoping that they do something to LMGs to bring them into the spotlight. So some counter shotgun tactics are just gain distance. Really quickly, I'll cover that. I cannot kill players from far away. I have to be up close, especially with the M870. The reticle is not as small as the SASG with my other build, so I just have no distance. I have to be close, and someone that has a sniper build can get far away and then, do a lot more to counter me. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I do actually go down here. I think I get rifle butted. Now, I do want to show that the build is not infallible. You will die, often, especially with the toughness that I run. It does happen, so you can't go in and just one-shot everything and be invincible. There's never going to be a case like that. You have to have superior tactics and positioning. I was just being dumb, and I got dropped because of it. So really quickly, some announcements. I do plan on making this a full-time job. That's the end result and the end goal, and produce better and better content because of it. I feel like I get more energetic and I want to do more the more, support that I receive. I'm really grateful to all my fans and subscribers. It's been a really great road so far. I really could not have asked for more. You guys have been fantastic. The discussion has been great. The Facebook community, everything has been amazing. And as a result, I do want to actually step into streaming. Now, to do that, it's going to take a lot of planning, a lot of different stuff. I got to get some hardware, some equipment. So in order to achieve that goal of starting a live stream and actually expanding into that, maybe on Twitch, maybe on YouTube, I haven't really weighed my options yet, but that's the next goal. And to achieve that, I need some hardware. So I have set up a Patreon account. Fan funding on YouTube was having some issues because of, I don't know, partnering with an MCN. So it's a lot of complicated things, but I've set up a Patreon instead as an alternative, and it will never be required. The link is going to be, right here in the video. You can click it and check out the page. 50 cents a month, 10 cents a month, $1.50 a month, anything like that. If you want to set up a donation for that, that's much appreciated, but it will never be required. I'm not going to do anything that requires payment in order to see the content. I'll keep doing what I'm doing exactly the way I'm doing it, and hopefully to an ever-increasing caliber, despite the fact of Patreon existing or anything like that. But I did want to put that there to see if there's some interest and to possibly, go down the road of being able to stream and make this a full-time career, which is, the end goal. That's what I aspire to be, is a great content creator that spans across, live streaming and YouTube and all this different stuff, providing great gaming content from a variety of games. We have a guy set up to do Destiny. We have a guy set up to do FIFA and other sports games. I will personally probably expand into some other MMORPG at some point. So I really think that there's a lot of potential to grow upper echelon gaming into a real, syndicate and a real widespread, gaming coalition, which would be really nice. And that's, something I aspire to have. Thank you for watching, everyone. At 10,000 subscribers, I will release another t-shirt, so stay tuned for that. The channel's growing at a really great pace. I can't say thank you enough. And there's actually a messaging app in the Facebook community now called Band. We've expanded to as well, with some really easy to use chat rooms where you can talk to me, you can talk to other members of Upper Echelon, and bounce feedback around and request videos and things like that. I'm trying to make this a really interactive community where I am actually accessible. I don't want to be just producing whatever I feel like whenever I feel like doing it. My supporters are what make me relevant as a content creator, so I'm aspiring to produce the best content I can for you guys, be accessible. You guys can talk to me, bounce ideas around, play with me whenever possible. Schedule's a little hectic, but I will try to keep doing that. So I'm going to wrap it up there. The video dragged on a little bit long. I'm sorry about that. But as always, thank you for supporting, and have a nice day.